So at 5 feet and 11 inches, I am a pretty tall person. And I'm also Polish. And in the words of my dad, Polish people love being sad. Okay, so what do you get when you combine sadness and tallness? Probably a lot of stuff. But in this case, you get the Irish elk. Talking threads. Okay, so before I talk specifically about the Irish elk, I want to talk a little bit about the time when it was around, because it is something that's extinct currently, which kind of implies that it won't be extinct in the future, which would be awesome, but unlikely. Even though they did do that thing with the mammoth DNA. Remember when they thawed the mammoth and then they were extracting its DNA and they thought about cloning it? Or they were planning on cloning it? Should have done research on mammoth thawing before I started filming. It was not extinct during the Pleistocene era. Specifically the second half of the Pleistocene. And if you don't know what the Pleistocene is, it lasted from about 2.6 million to 11,600 years ago. There was all this climate change during the Pleistocene in the form of glacial periods and interglacial periods, which basically just means when there were glaciers and then there weren't glaciers. Because of the climate change during the Pleistocene, we commonly refer to it as the Ice Age, and we characterize it with computer-animated squirrels pulling acorns out of glaciers. Yeah, I made an Ice Age reference, but I'm talking about the Ice Age, so it's relevant, even though those movies are terrible. So the Pleistocene saw a ton of really huge animals, which we call megafauna, and a lot of them were mammals, and a lot of them were some of the biggest mammals of their families, or genera, or anything like that that we've ever seen. And the Irish elk was one of them. There were small animals during the Pleistocene too, but being tall, I kind of like the big ones better. The Irish elk is kind of a misleading name, because it wasn't an elk, nor was it exclusively Irish. The Irish elk populated pretty much all of Europe as we know it today. Because of the distinct peatiness of Irish soil, and excuse me for a second because I have to nerd out about how awesome Irish soil is, guys, it's really cool. I don't have time to go into details about it, but it's cool and it preserves organic matter pretty well. And so a lot of the remains of Irish elk that we found have been found in Ireland. And basically, I've been there, and trust me, you cannot walk 10 feet in that country without tripping over some antlers sticking out of the ground. Anya can totally vouch for me that that is 100% accurate. And it's not an elk. It's actually the largest deer that has ever existed. The Irish elk stood about 7 feet at its shoulder, and its antlers could span up to 12 feet. Okay, I just think that is so awesome. Like, that's 2 of me. The extinction of the Irish elk is most commonly associated with the Quaternary extinction event, which basically people identify as humans breeding like rabbits like crazy and moving all across the world and killing and eating everything. I'm very scientific about this. But there's a version of the story that I like a lot better because it's a lot more tragic. And although I guess the beginning of human destruction is tragic, but I like this one better, okay? So I mentioned a few seconds ago that the Pleistocene saw these interglacial and glacial periods, and obviously it's a lot of climate change. The vegetation is doing crazy dancing things. I mean, I wasn't there, it may have been dancing. After the last glacial period, there were a lot more trees in Europe, to put it in a very technical way. And the poor Irish elk, with its 12-foot wide antlers, just couldn't fit through the trees, and it kept getting stuck. So they all died off. Isn't that way better than, oh, humans killed everything again, what a surprise? I think it's better. The humor and the sadness. The Irish elk is basically the crying clown, oh, clowns scare me, of the Pleistocene megafauna. Alright guys, if I have just sparked your interest in Pleistocene megafauna, and I really hope I have, here are some other ones that I recommend that you look up that I think are really cool. The aurochs, which was like a really big cow that was awesome, that actually survived until the 17th century. Archaeoindris, the gorilla-sized lemur. The marsupial lion, which has the strongest bite of any known mammal, living or dead. And Megatherium, who you may have heard of because they're really weird. They are elephant-sized sloths. Okay guys, I hope you've enjoyed traveling down Pleistocene Lane with me today, and Jamie, I'll see you tomorrow.